Welcome back to our channel. Today we're recapping Eternity. This film starts with Larry and Joan. They have been married long enough to argue about absolutely nothing, and that's exactly what they're doing on the drive, over to their son's place. They bicker the whole way, so distracted that they nearly turn another car into scrap metal. They make it there in one piece, barely. Before they walk in, Larry quietly slides Joan's sleeve down over the bandage on her arm. A quiet reminder, tell them about the cancer. Joan shakes her head. Not today. Their grandchild's gender reveal is happening and she refuses to be the dark cloud over it. Inside, the family is loud, warm, and happy to see them. 65 years of marriage gets a round of laughs and teasing. Then someone brings up a box of old photos they found downstairs. Joan's photos. And buried in the stack is a wedding picture. Not Joan and Larry's. Joan and her first husband, a man named Luke. A man who never made it back from the war. Then Larry chokes on a pretzel. Not a little cough. He goes down hard, hitting the floor before anyone can react. And just like that, the world cuts to black. He wakes up on a train. Pink confetti drifts from the ceiling. A kid in a suit 2 sizes too big walks past and says, almost casually, "Oh, you weren't expecting that, were you?" and disappears. When the train pulls into the station, Larry notices something strange about the other passengers. A lot of them are wearing hospital gowns. He follows the crowd into a massive open space that everyone seems to call the junction. It's loud, it's overwhelming, and people are throwing information at him that makes zero sense. At the front desk, he tells the receptionist he's been taken somewhere against his will. She barely blinks. He hasn't been taken anywhere, she says. He just needs to wait for his AC. He doesn't know what that means. He finds a chair and waits. Hours later, nearly everyone is gone. Larry has dozed off when a woman drops into the seat beside him, wide awake and completely unbothered. Her name is Anna. A C stands for Afterlife Coordinator. And yes, Larry is dead. He argues. Of course he argues, but then he spots the confetti still floating around and it hits him. Pink. His grandkid is a girl. Anna walks him to a mirror and he stops talking entirely. The face staring back at him is young, not old Larry, young Larry. She explains, when people arrive at the junction, their bodies revert to the version of themselves they were happiest in. As Anna walks him through the place, Larry keeps circling back to one thing, Joan. He has to get back to Joan. She has cancer. He made her a promise. Anna eventually slaps him to cut through the spiral, which does actually work. She explains, this isn't heaven, it's a waiting room, a transition point between life and whatever comes next. An alarm goes off somewhere down the hall. Larry watches security tackle a man trying to force his way through a red door. Anna doesn't explain much, just warns him to stay away from those. His room is simple. The closet is stocked with all his favorite clothes. Someone did their homework. Every channel on the TV is an advertisement for a different kind of eternity. He wanders the junction and finds the same thing, booth after booth, each one selling a different forever. He finds the bar. A woman immediately slides into the seat next to him, impossibly charming, making a very clear pitch for a very specific kind of eternity. The bartender shuts it down. No advertising in here. The woman leaves. The bartender's name is Luke. Not the same Luke from the photograph, just a soul who picked up a job to stay in the junction. He explains how this all works. Once you choose an eternity, that's it. No transfers, no visiting someone else's. Break the rules, overstay, try to switch, and you go to the void. No fire, no punishment, just nothing. Endless nothing. Larry tells him about Joan, about the cancer, about how he promised to be there when she needed him most. Luke pours him another drink. The next morning, Anna sits on the edge of his bed to wake him up. Hangover aside, Larry wants to know why some souls have jobs here. Some haven't accepted it yet, she says. Some are waiting for someone. The ones who can't decide just stay. Larry asks if Joan will arrive soon. She can't tell him that. He says he'll wait. Anna says after 7 days, he'd have to take a job and move to the basement. He says fine. Days pass. No Joan. Anna tells him it could be months. So Larry shifts his plan. He'll build an eternity. Design it so Joan feels at home the moment she gets there. That night, he writes her a letter. Everything he couldn't say out loud. And in that same moment, Joan's body finally gives out. She opens her eyes on the train, confetti falling softly around her. The next morning, Anna is walking Larry toward his chosen eternity. He asks her to pass the letter to Joan. Against the rules, she says, and pulls him into a hug. He heads toward the escalator. On the platform below, Joan has just stepped off the train. Their eyes almost miss each other, but they don't. Larry stops cold. He turns around, shoves back through the crowd, and sprints back to the junction. Joan is standing at a mirror, seeing her young face for the first time. When Larry reaches her, she knows immediately. She figured it out on the train. She's furious he died choking on a snack. They hold each other like they haven't in years. Then Joan's AC arrives, Ryan, and gently separates them. He has someone waiting to see her, someone who has been waiting for 67 years. Luke, the Luke from the photograph, is standing there, and when Joan sees him, something in her breaks open. The reunion is quiet and devastated and beautiful. And then, Larry interrupts it. What follows is a disaster. Joan has a panic attack. Ryan takes her to her room. Luke comes to find her, and she slams the door in his face. Larry is ranting to Anna, who is trying very hard to be professional about the fact that Ryan is her ex. Larry argues he gave Joan 65 years. Anna calls it emotional blackmail. no, he doesn't disagree. Luke and Joan take a walk. It's awkward in the specific way that only happens when two people have too much history and not enough present. One of the guards passing by already knows Joan by name. Luke apparently has not been quiet about her over the decades. After the guard leaves, Luke tells Joan he loves her, that he thought about her every single day. He leans in. She pulls back. She needs time. Minutes later, Larry appears with brochures and eternity options spread across her floor. She yells at him, both of them really. Her best friend also died after Larry, which makes Larry visibly relieved. He never liked her. He tries to calm Joan down the way he always did. Reminds her that squatting used to center her. She laughs despite herself because she can actually do it again in this body. Then Larry eats more pretzels. Joan nearly loses her mind. She kicks him out. He heads to the basement. On his way down, Larry spots a poster for a Dean Martin show. Joan loves Dean Martin. He asks Anna to arrange it. The performance turns out to be a very committed impersonator who immediately trips on the stairs. While Larry argues with Anna about it, the fake Dean Martin tries to flirt with Joan. Luke steps in and punches him. The coordinators scramble. Joan snaps and locks herself in her room with Anna and Ryan, demanding they fix the situation. After a very long phone call involving a lot of bureaucratic negotiation, they come back with a solution: 2 special visas. Joan gets 1 visit to an eternity with each husband, then she decides. The men immediately start arguing about who goes first. A coin flip is proposed. They argue about that too. Ryan eventually just makes it happen. Luke wins. The train ride with Luke is warm but stilted. His eternity is a mountain. Clean air, tall trees, open sky. They walk and laugh and it starts to feel like something real. At dinner, Joan talks about her kids, her grandkids. Luke listens, though something flickers in his face. He's glad she had a full life, he says. He just wishes it had been with him. They go to the archives, a building found in every eternity where souls can replay their own memories. They watch their first date, their first kiss, their wedding day, the last goodbye before he shipped out. Joan tells him how much she missed him. They kiss. Then the memories continue, and Luke has to watch Larry's proposal. He walks out. He says Larry took advantage of a grieving woman. Joan tries to explain. He's not in a place to hear it. Meanwhile, Larry is spiraling to Anna. He's always been competing with a ghost, he says. How do you win against someone who died young and perfect and beloved? Anna tells him to stop trying to win and start reminding Joan why she chose him in the first place. Larry finds Karen, Joan's best friend, who looks older here because her happiest days came later in life, after her husband died and she could finally stop hiding who she was. She says she didn't used to like Larry much, but he grew on her. She doesn't know why Joan fell in love with him, but she knows Joan was happy. Larry sneaks into Luke's room looking for ammunition. What he finds instead are tally marks covering the wall, 67 years of days, and a notebook full of sketches of Joan. Luke catches him. They argue. Then they actually fight, badly, pathetically, both of them too old in their memories to do it well. In the chaos, Larry's letter falls out of his pocket. Larry says he didn't know about Luke when he proposed. Luke says that's a lie. He proposed at the dock, their dock, the place that belonged to Luke and Joan. Joan wanders the junction until Ryan quietly guides her to a corridor of discontinued eternities. Quiet, no booths, no noise. She tells him she still doesn't know. He says Luke seems like the obvious answer. The choice is hers. The next day, Larry takes Joan to a beach eternity. Popular, crowded, a little chaotic. They talk on a boat. He apologizes for not being there when she died. He imagines the kids would love seeing them together. Joan tells him it feels like pressure. He says he would have waited for her as long as Luke did. She asks to go into the archives with him. He refuses. He says he wants to protect her from getting lost in the past. She says he's just scared. That night, Luke finds Larry's letter and reads it. Joan and Larry return from their date and kiss on the shore. Then Luke shows up with the coordinators. He hands Joan the letter. She reads that Larry had already chosen to leave and only stayed because he saw her on the escalator. The argument that follows is the ugliest one yet. Larry calls himself Joan's consolation prize. Luke loses it and admits he's had other relationships over 67 years of waiting, but at least he was here. Joan tells them both she needs more time. The coordinators pull the men away. Karen comes with a drink. Joan finally falls apart. Karen takes her out into the junction. Booths, distractions, one drink after another. At some point, Karen cuts through all of it. You're dead. You have no obligations. You get to start clean. At the bar, Larry and Luke end up drinking together, which somehow leads to them complimenting each other and mutually agreeing that Joan doesn't deserve either of them. The next morning, Joan calls them both in. She tells them she loves them. She tells them she's lucky. She tells them she can't choose either of them, because no matter which door she walks through, she'll spend eternity mourning the one she didn't pick. She walks out crying. She's going with Karen. Later, Larry finds Luke and tells him the truth. He proposed at the dock because Luke was always the ghost. He wonders if some part of him choked on purpose when he saw the wedding photo. Luke admits he spent 67 years jealous of a life he never got to live. Then they share something unexpected. Why their bodies chose these forms. Luke looks like the day he and Joan talked about starting a family. Larry looks like the day Joan was pregnant with their second child. Larry stops. Something clicks. He runs. He finds Joan already on the train. He asks her to step off for one last conversation. He looks at her hair. Long. She always wore it short during their marriage. That means her happiest self, the form she reverted wanted to is the one she had when she was with Luke, not with him. Joan doesn't say anything. Larry does. He tells her to go with Luke. She tries to argue. He doesn't let her. They hold each other for a long time, then they let go. Luke and Joan ride the train into the mountains. They build something new. Dinners. Friends, laughter, a life that finally gets to happen. One night, after Luke falls asleep, Joan slips out to the archives. She finds the memory of the day she met Larry. She goes back every night. The archives clerk finally tells her it isn't healthy. Luke books activity after activity, filling every hour. One night, he says this is the perfect life. Joan doesn't answer. The next morning, he announces another trip, and she breaks. She tells him she made a mistake. She tells him he's been in love with the version of her from 67 years ago, and that woman is gone. Love isn't just the beginning, she says. It's supposed to survive the hard parts too. The mortgage, the arguments, the years that aren't beautiful. Luke has never had to love her through any of that. She's going back. Even if it gets her caught, Luke walks away angry, then he comes back and says he'll help. They go to the archives together. Luke creates a scene at the front desk. A performance, a breakdown. The clerk rushes to help him. Joan slips inside. Together they watch their wedding memory one last time. They say goodbye the right way. Then Joan moves behind the screen and pushes through the red door. The alarm goes off the moment she's through. She runs through corridors built from her own past. Childhood, grief, the soldiers at the door telling her Luke was gone, until she finds herself tumbling through a washing machine door into the middle of an old argument with Larry. Guards still coming. She barricades the door, runs upstairs, hides from her own older self, crawls under a bed, and comes out on the train tracks. She walks through the tunnel back to the junction. The receptionist recognizes her face from a wanted notice the second she asks about Larry. Joan runs. She finds Ryan and Anna in the booths. They hide her from the guards without a second's hesitation. Then they tell her where Larry is. She walks into the bar. He's behind the counter, wiping down a glass. She sits down. He pours her a drink. She tells him she's a fugitive. She asks him to come with her. He doesn't even think about it. Moments later, they step off a train together into the neighborhood where they spent their entire married life. Every house exactly where it should be. Every street exactly as they left it. Their home. If this one hit different, drop it in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell. New recaps every week.